Well, I'm Bill Thompson. Tell from the accent, I'm not from here, I'm from England. Been over here 20 years now, and I've been an engineer all my life. In fact, I wanted to be an artist when I was about 16, but I was brought up by grandparents, and when I told my grandfather I wanted to be an artist, I got a slap around the head and told, go and get a real man's job. So I went into engineering and never regretted it. It's been great. My professional life's been perfect. It's taken me around the world. I've lived in most of Europe. I've lived in Africa. I've lived in South America. Came here to the United States 20 years ago and been to Canada as well. So it's been useful. But last year I decided at 70 I was going to retire. And now what I'm doing, instead of doing a profession, I've swapped my profession for a passion. So I'm now doing what I've wanted to do all my life. I'm thoroughly enjoying every minute of it. I've painted all my life. In fact, when I was a child, I painted for Adrian Hill BBC Sketch Club. And this is a program that ran every 2 weeks. And it was about an hour long, and Adrian Hill, who's an artist, came on and showed you how to paint certain things. And then at the end, there was always a competition. Do a painting and send it in. And I got on every program. My paintings were shown. So art's been with me a long time. I just love to draw and create. There's no question about it. So as I say, that got me started. I really wanted a career in art, but I've no regrets that I've waited 70 years to get here, because I'm doing now exactly what I want. So it's fantastic. I've tried every medium possible. You know, I experiment, and a lot of my work is a complete failure. But I'm my worst critic, you see. I look at my work. If I don't like it, it goes in the bin. Even the work I'm doing now, layered vinyl. I came into this by mistake about 2 years ago. You saw my work at the Broken Yolk. I'd moved into that phase of doing portraits in acrylic, and someone said to me, "Can you paint another one exactly the same as I'd done before?" And I said, "No, I only paint water." But he said, "Well, can you make a print?" And I thought, well, I'll try. I hadn't made a print before. And what I had in mind was cutting a stencil, well, 4 stencils, and using spray paint between the stencils to make up an image. And I started cutting the first stencil, and I thought, this is crazy. I'm cutting holes in the stencil to put paint through. Why don't I use a coloured material and throw away what would be the stencil? And I tried it, and the first one was a success, and that's what this is all about. I've done it ever since. It's taken me over. I just love the medium. It's a challenge. There's 3 or 4 things that can go wrong. The first thing is obviously it's thin vinyl, so it stretches. So you've got to be very careful when you're using it that it doesn't stretch, and that will throw your registration right out. Dust or dirt in the atmosphere, if that gets under the vinyl, it's a little blip that probably someone wouldn't notice, but I notice, so you throw it away. And then the third thing that's important is that depending on the temperature, you can get air bubbles under the vinyl as you're layering it one on top of the other. I found a technique, if you get a sharp pin and go around every bubble and burst it, you can get rid of that. So that's, you know, I'm learning all the time. It's an unforgiving medium, but it's a medium I actually love using. So I haven't done anything else since, but I've tried everything. I've done oils, I've done watercolours. When I was in Africa, I was painting in acrylics and doing wildlife paintings. When I was in Brazil, I was doing landscapes, and at that time it was mostly oil and watercolours. I came home and I started doing pyrography, burning wood. So I'm trying everything. Recently I just decided that I'm going to England in September to do a sculpting course with my son. And if that works, I might come back and start sculpting. So hey, you never know. I was trained as an electrical engineer. I never practiced as an electrical engineer because as I came out of university, I went into the field of automation. And that took me into computers just as they were coming into business. So I spent all my life going around the world teaching people to use computers in a design environment. And today, for instance, I use a computer. When I'm doing a vinyl, it's a 5-step process. I take a photograph, nothing more serious than this. I take it into Photoshop, I edit it. I take away all the superfluous stuff in the photograph I don't want to see, mostly the background, because I like plain background. I then break it down into 4 colours, because I use 4 layers of vinyl, so it's 1 layer per colour. And then what I do with each colour layer, once I've separated the colours, I vectorize it. So I'm not interested in the colour patch, I'm interested in the outline. And then what I would normally do is then trace that onto a piece of vinyl and cut it by hand. That's how I started doing it. I don't do that anymore, I'm too lazy to do that, and I lost too much hair in the process. So what I do now, I use the computer. I take a plotter, so I send the image to what would be a plotter, but the pen isn't there anymore, instead there's a little rotating blade. So instead of drawing, I actually cut the vinyl. Now that's taken a lot of time to get right, because the vinyl is so thin, you can only cut through the layer of vinyl, you can't cut through the backing sheet, or you'd never separate them. And you can see from these, I'm doing tiny, tiny pieces now. So two things I have to do now is I have to work in bright light, my eyesight's going, and I have to work under a magnifying glass because the pieces are so small. But it's still a challenge, and I love it. Well, the stuff of the broken yoke is mostly acrylics, that's when I was doing that. And then, of course, I started doing acrylics of their football players for the university. And of course, I had to use beaver's colours for that, so that got me to orange and black and white, of course. But I like sepia tones, even in a photograph. I like black and white photographs, and I like sepia photographs more than anything else. And I try to bring that into my pictures. So that's where I started. But a couple of people said to me, you know, just a splash of colour made a great difference. So now you're seeing splashes of colour appearing. But I'll never get to the point where I do a full multicoloured vinyl. For two reasons. I think it would be too harsh. It's a medium that doesn't lend itself to that. But if I can just add a splash here and again, it just highlights something, you know. That's what I'm trying to do now. Three places at the moment. Gallery Kalapur, which is on 1st Street here in Albany, just down the road. I'm a member of that gallery. You can find my work in the Broken Yoke in Corvallis, but that tends to be my older acrylic photograph. I also a member of the Primary Elements Gallery in Camden Beach, and recently, in fact only a couple of days ago, I may be a guest member of I've got to think of it, Pacific Artists Alliance down in Lincoln City. But that would be a guest artist, that would be a permanent location. So there's 4 places where you can see my art, yeah. In fact, a lot of my work that you won't see here has been commissioned work. What people have done, I'll give you 2 examples. Last Christmas, a person I know, she lost her brother, and she wanted a family portrait. So there was herself, an older sister, a younger brother, I think there was another sister. So she sent me photographs of them, and I combined them all and did it was 4 foot long by about 18 inches tall. And it was the first family portrait she had, even though the brother wasn't there anymore. So yeah, I do that a lot, and obviously birthday presents, they come in very useful. Something simple, let me give you an example if I can. The ones with the wagon at the end, that probably takes about 4 hours start to finish. But something as detailed as, let's say, the landscape up there. There's a lot of tiny parts in that. That could take me 8 hours or more to do. Now that's from the moment I've got the photograph the way I want it. That's the process of doing the vinyl. That takes about 4 to 8 hours. Editing the photograph, it depends on what I want out of the photograph. If I'm taking a photograph that's pretty well close to what I want, an hour. If it's something that I really have to take a lot of background off and play around with, probably a couple of hours. So we're talking of a day's work to do a decent one.